Hey everyone. So I am Dinesh, CTO at Civo, a public cloud company that has been using Dagger and Anger for about a year or so now. We're going to be demoing some of the behind the scenes of what we're doing, building a Dagger engine environment that's speeding up our pipelines.
I'm Kyle. I'm on the ecosystem team at Dagger, and I'll be showing the Dagger side of this demo.
What Kyle and I have been working on is a set of Terraform infrastructure in Civo that allows us to get a kind of what we're ending up with is a scalable Dagger engine in a Kubernetes cluster with the cache offloaded into an object store so that as new engines start up, they're able to access that cache and then they can kind of scale down and scale up. So you're getting sort of those cost efficiencies, but all of the benefits of still having this cache of all of the jobs that you're running. What I have been working on is the infrastructure side, and I know that there are some caveats on the Dagger side on how the cache works and everything. So I'm going to run through that sort of infrastructure bit first, and then hand over to Kyle to tell you when you should use this and when you shouldn't use it, and hopefully what's coming in the future. So this is the GitHub repo that we've got up. It's on our Civo Learn guide as a template. So you should be able to come over here and actually just use template, and then it will go off and create a copy of this in your own GitHub repos so that you can use it, you can iterate it on it and kind of use it with your own secrets and stuff as you go about in your own Civo account. I guess actually, does everyone know what Civo is, or should I kind of do a little 30 seconds on what we do and what we're up to?
I think
Let's hear about it.
Yeah. So Civo, we're building a public cloud. If I can type. So kind of our homepage, we're building out infrastructure around the world and giving you a public cloud to run infrastructure on. So that's managed Kubernetes, managed object stores, databases, and that sort of stuff. We are generally cheaper than other providers out there, but our real focus is on ease of use and what we call cross transparency. So that's based on at the end of the month, your price stays the same unless you're making a change and you don't get any of these hidden fees and stuff. I'm on the Discord. You can come and chat to me about what we do and what you see here, but I don't want to go too much. You can join a sales call or something if you want to hear more information about that. Cool. So we have a Terraform provider. So for those that know about Terraform, I'm just going to kick this off and running in the background and then come down to this diagram here as kind of best that I could get with an AI to get this up and running. So we are spinning up a managed Kubernetes cluster inside Civo and also an object store, which is what you're seeing over here. Can I make that bigger nicely, or is GitHub gonna, no, not gonna make it nice. We're gonna use this object store as that cache. What our Terraform is doing is it's provisioning all of this infrastructure, gathering this secret and injecting it into a namespace inside the Kubernetes cluster that we're spinning up. We've then got the Helm deployment of the Dagger engine that is then going to use that cached secrets to use it when it's pulling information in and out. So coming into the Terraform here, we have got a list of things like our cluster. So very, very quick and easy to set up. I think it's only about 14, 15 resources in this entire repo to get you up and running. We've got our object store here. So this is the sort of credentials for it and the object store itself. And this, if you've not seen it before, is using the Kubernetes secret resource inside what Terraform provide. And this is the key in particular that we're writing into the secret. So this is the experimental Dagger cache config that I mentioned at the start of the call, and a long string of options that get passed through the region that you're in Civo, and then the credentials, the access key, and the secret access key, and the object store name that is listed in here. I will caveat, this is very much a demo, a proof of concept. I do not recommend doing this in production. There are much better ways of doing it with secret stores and everything. Hence why this is the template that you can take on and kind of configure to best practices for the security best practices in the company that you're in. But this kind of shows you how to get up and running with it. What I've then done as well is I've got a copy of the Dagger engine in here. And
Just a clarifying question. Sorry, this is
yeah,
using Civo's object storage service that happens to be S3 compatible, so
yes,
you can use Dagger's built-in support for S3.
exactly. Yeah.
Catch it. Nice.
Yeah. And what's really nice about this is that the cluster, wherever that is, here, is in the same region as the object store. And I know, because I built the cloud that this is running on, that there's like 50 gig of network transport between each of these. The object store is on things like NVMe drives, and then a caching layer down and everything. So that speed of reading and writing out of the cache is really, really quick, because it's almost like there's one cable in between the VM and the object store.
Nice.
So yeah, the other thing I just wanted to say is that you will need to be aware about is that I have put in a N from secret into the Dagger engine Helm chart that we're using to deploy. I'm talking to Kyle about pushing this upstream, and I think I've just been demo slow about getting this through. But this is just passing through into the daemon set. If you're aware of Kubernetes here, this N from secret ref. And what that is doing is having that environment variable that we defined piped through into the Dagger engine, and it just appears magically for the Dagger engine to use. So, of course, because it's a demo, this is going to take a little while to run and get up and running. But I believe Kyle has one he built earlier. If we swap over to Kyle, and we can carry on from here.
I love cooking shells.
Exactly. The classic cooking show demo. Yeah. Now this is completed and it's all great.
And now the Terraform done.
Exactly. So we can see the Terraform completed. One of the outputs or the main output of this Terraform run is that it drops a kube config in my local directory, so I can actually set my kube config based on this file. I won't show the file because then you can all mess with my cluster while I'm trying to make things work. And then I can actually run kubectl get nodes, and I can see that we have 3 nodes running. If I look at the variables for this Terraform, so if I look here, so we defaulted to...
We would never mess with your config,
3 nodes.
Kyle.
Yeah, please. Exactly. I trust all of you, but also, I don't know, it's boring SSH keys anyway. So we have 3 nodes and our object store and all these things. And so if I look over on the Civo side, we can see I have my cluster with 3 nodes. We can look at it, and it's just running and it's loading that. There we go. So there's our cluster. We can see it's K3s. Here's an API endpoint if you do want to mess with me. And then over on the object store side, we have that object store created for the Dagger cache. And so it's got a prefix and then Dagger object store. And we've got this directory, Dagger engine.
Okay.
This is where all the cache things go. Go ahead.
I was just hoping it was going to be 500 gigs. I was like, because like from the YAML, I was like, is it going to be 500 gigs? It looked like it was going to be, and it looks like it is. Yeah.
There we go.
Very cool.
So Terraform did what we told it to, which is always great. So now I can also, so we looked at earlier our nodes. We can also look at our actual engines running in this Kubernetes cluster. So if I say get pods in the Dagger namespace, we've got this 3 engines created from the Helm chart. So the next step, if we look at the README, there we go, is, so we've done our Terraform. So now, just to demo this locally, I'm actually going to set my engine to just point at one of those nodes. In production, you'd realistically have something like running in the nodes alongside the engine, pointing at the local engine, all these complicated setups, and we can get more into that too. I think we have a few docs pages about that. But for now, what I'll do is run this, and then, why did that break? It just worked. Let's just go to...
I think it might be white space at the end of the lines as you've gone up.
Yeah, we'll just pull one for my history instead of glow. There we go. Okay. So now if we look at, oh no, there we go. This variable I just set, and then look at the pods again. We can see we're pointing at this pod. So our engine pod name with this command, we've found this pod name. And so now what we'll do is actually set our engine to that pod name. So if I say export, this one is probably right. So we're going to say our runner host is QPod, that name we just saw, and then Dagger namespace. And then we can look at that too. Okay, so now I've told my Dagger client that when I run, this is where my engine lives. So it's in this pod. I'm assuming there's some things under the hood that do some fancy stuff to connect through my kubeconfig or something. I'm not actually sure, but I assume with this namespace that it'll use my kubeconfig because somehow it gets connected. So I can actually now do a Dagger call. And let's see, that's not the one I wanted. I wanted, go back to here. I wanted to run this command. And I'll show what this is doing. So here we're just using a Dagger core command to get a container from Alpine. And then we're going to add the curl package to that container. And then we're just going to curl the dagger.io site. And then we're just going to look at the standard error. So we have some output to look at, but it's not like thousands of lines of JavaScript. So if I run this, we'll connect to that engine running in our Kubernetes cluster. Oh, and we got white spaced again.
Oh man.
There we go. No, it's okay. Saved. So we connected to our cluster. It ran that install, and then we've got some output. And of course, if I run that again, it will be cached all the way through. So if we go back and look at our object store now, Dinesh talked about, we have that S3 thing pointing at the blob store to say, hey, engines, when you have cache, export it to this place. And so we can go, let's look at maybe the blobs here. And then let's see, it's maybe give it some chances to refresh. I'm not sure actually how fast it uploads, but let's look at this side too. So it's 22 after, and this is
21.
Yeah, I think maybe I ran it a minute ago. We should see some new blobs show up here too. So they're probably getting uploaded. Actually, I could probably look at, I think I have a cool command here in my history. So I can actually look at the logs from that pod that is our engine. And we can see that, let's see, we finished our session. And then there's probably some things in here about cache exports and all these things. So
yeah, it's like cache export. Yeah.
Yeah, it's calling the exporter, which is probably the thing that we're looking for, waiting for cache export. So things are happening. We've got some caches up here. Let's refresh this. Okay. Anyway, so now the idea with this is you've got a bunch of these nodes, right? And if each of these nodes has an engine, and those engines are actually using like a volume on the node as their like local cache volume too, so that if your engines are ephemeral, like they're getting spun up as a new engine with every CI run or something like that, then you're going to have this cache already locally from the node, but also we've connected them to this blob store so that now if I go to my variables.
And I'm going to ask you something really quick, Kyle, while you're doing this.
Yeah.
Because you're going to spin up a new one. It looks like a new node, right?
Yeah.
So here's my guess is that since you're attached to just one node when you were one engine, that was, and we had one engine per node, right? So that when you got that cached result, you were getting the cache was coming from the local storage of that node. And I don't know if it's going to be the case, but I just like predict, why not, that maybe it'll be like 5 minutes before the cache export happens. Maybe it's 5 minutes, who knows? And they say if that were the case, then we would see it go to the Civo blob store, and then it would get it'll get synced to this new node. One would think.
Yeah. So I think the way we use it in Civo is that we use GitLab. So we have the GitLab runners running in this cluster, and the way that works is every time a new job kicks off, a new pod is spun up on any one of the 3 nodes, and it connects to the local Dagger engine over the socket. So there's a shared socket between the engine and then the GitLab process, and it pulls the cache down and everything. And regardless of which engine it eventually runs on, our job gets the benefit of the caches as it's gone through everything, and we don't need to worry about that. And then we also auto scale as well, so that during the night when it's only me working crazy hours, it's down to a single runner, and then as the rest of the team come online, we scale up through the day, and then we scale back down.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, exactly. So in this demo, I'm connecting to a specific node, but in reality, like in CI, your job is going to be associated with a node, and every job will have a different node. And so what we'll do to actually show this is actually point our local one to the new node, but in reality, it would just be whatever node your job lands on, it's going to be hooked up to that engine. So yeah, when we ran it before and saw the caching, that was connecting to the same engine we had in the previous run, which is why it was like immediately cached. But all this is cool because it's layers of cache, right? So you've got the caching local to that engine, and the caching persisted to that node. Now we've got an additional layer of the caching also synced across the blob store. So you've got kind of like best effort layers of reliability here, so that as we're scaling, we can have at least something, right? And so now we can see if that pod's up, and it is, and we can check our engines, get pods. And so now we've got this new engine here. And so let's actually export this one, and let's go for index 3, and we'll just make sure we got the right one. Pod name. And so we've got the H6 WBZ, and let's set our engine again.
And while you're doing that, Kyle, so like,
yeah.
Dinesh, do you then, were you saying that then you run persistent engines like this, or are your engines more ephemeral?
So our engines are persistent, but then the pods that get spun up to run an individual job are ephemeral.
It's like a runner pod on GitLab.
A runner pod. Yeah. A runner pod in GitLab is ephemeral.
Cool.
I think that's because we were Donka.
Totally.
So fingers crossed. Like I said, all the layers are best effort. So let's see how we go here. So we're connected, and we ran some things. Okay, so we didn't hit the cache this time, but the S3 thing is best effort, and I hope in the near future we can have something much more robust on the Dagger side that we can offer for the caching layers like that, where you're kind of layering things on top of layers to try and more reliably hit cache across runs.
Can we see if the export is happened now, just for fun? Just look at the.
Yeah, I mean, we have things here we can go back and look at.
I've got the lucky cat with me now, so hopefully everything's different now.
Hey, Dinesh, do you use like a big shared manifest for all jobs, or do you namespace it? So do you namespace it somehow to have different pools of cache separated logically between different pipelines?
So we run a monorepo, so it's all just under the same thing, and we load the entire monorepo into is our first caching layer into our Dagger pipelines. So I know when I was talking to Kyle a little while ago that as you have different namespaces and you have different projects, this doesn't work as well. For our use case, it works really, really well.
Yeah, no, it's. I mean, it doesn't work perfectly, but what's tough with caching is it's actually hard to measure accurately how well any technique works. You know, we're all missing the iteration loop where you can just go boom, 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 10% better, 20% better, 30% worse. You know, like we're all kind of guessing. But yeah, I've been playing with that a little bit. But there are options though. Like you can probably squeeze some extra benefits out of this really easily just by tweaking how you just inserting a little bit of application specific knowledge into the configuration. You know, like that. The one thing we were just talking about with Kyle and a few others is that I feel like one pattern that's underused is separating, not always having every pipeline upload its entire cache when it's done. You can actually configure, you probably know this, but I'll just say it for everyone, but that experimental cache config that is directly, it's basically passed through the build kit. You can tweak different aspects of how it exports, and you can actually say only import, don't export. Of course, you need something to be in there. So at some point, you need to run a pipeline that will export cache data. Otherwise, there's nothing to import. But in some experiments that I've done, I've found that pre-running something, maybe something with a lot of cache data ahead of time and exporting, and then having a bunch of, maybe most of your production pipelines actually only import. That seems to be a very promising pattern, especially if then you add a second technique, which is to use the same bucket, but then namespace, use a different manifest for different types of pipelines. And that one you have to kind of key that in yourself. Like, okay, my tests, this big test pipeline over here, this other thing over there. And that's relatively easy to do. But yeah, then there is just the limitation of build kit's cache export. And just for commentary there, the reason caching is not fully solved with Dagger yet is our cheat code for almost every feature of Dagger is we start with what BuiltKit does, and it works pretty well, and then we just kind of improve from there. But in the case of BuiltKit, caching is just pretty remote cache. Local cache is great. Remote cache is just not great. So the S3 cache export that we're all building on has a lot of fundamental issues, and it works enough, but it's really pretty limited. So unfortunately, the way we move forward is we just re-implement that ourselves in Dagger, and the good news is we start doing that. But yeah, once that's done, things will unblock, and a lot of it'll be much easier to build caching scenarios like this. They'll just be rock solid and 10 times better with relatively little effort. Fingers crossed.
No, absolutely, fully understand that. And caching is incredibly difficult. And I have to say, there was a lot of crafting and finessing that I did in the Dagger pipeline we use in our monorepo to make the most of caching. And actually, if you look at all of my questions in the Dagger Discord, they're all about how do I ensure cache hits? And I've done this weird thing. It's missing the cache. How can I change it to get more cache hits?
Yeah.
Yeah. Same. Same.
I think that's.
But there's movement there. I mean, there is ongoing work, and it's going to get better.
Yeah, and that is a shout out to also all of our community members, including yourself, Dinesh, who continue to ask questions in the Discord and report things for your use case, because it makes it it's really helpful for us because, and we're like Solomon said, sometimes we're hitting the same thing for our own own pipelines. And so seeing other people hit things and being able to work with you and also pressure test things when we do have fixes is great. Actually, it reminded me, because you mentioned monorepo, we have some documentation and kind of best practices we're actually working on right now, because we get those questions a lot about how to get started with those. And so definitely want to send that your way for feedback. But also, if there's other community members watching this and you have monorepo and you're getting started with Dagger and you have questions, Discord is a great place to go because we can answer them. But also, we want to get your feedback on if the documentation works for all of you. So it's good to know who I can reach out to for that. Kyle, did you want to show anything else on a specific demo?
No, I think I was just trying to try something real quick as we were talking through that. But if you want to share that that Civo Learn repo Nesh, and more people can try it out.
Yeah, I'll put that. I will put that link in the chat so everyone can get up on Discord and here. And then also, if we mentioned as things will get better, is that we also are going to be at Civo Navigate in San Francisco in February. So we get to join Dinesh and his team there. I think we're planning, it's not stone yet, but I think we're all doing a workshop. But also, I do know Solomon is keynoting, so we're really excited about joining. And we also, CivoCloud has some credits as well, so I'll put that in the chat with the link to go to, and that way you can get started. And then we'll continue to work on Civo/Dagger documentation together. So if anyone has questions, you can go into our Discord, and I believe we have a channel, but just throw it in general if you have any questions about getting started. So.